If you are seated comfortably, shall we start with some meditation? After all that excitement. So just taking your time. Now at first I am still having to get familiar with this screen and the fact that there really are people in front of me. So it takes a bit of time to both connect to that sense of there being a community in front of us, but also feeling that we can actually inhabit our own space inside. And hopefully those two can come together in a way that feels supportive. So we can close our eyes if that's comfortable and just check into your body first of all and see if it really is in a comfortable position, what you can do to give it even more freedom and ease. So this body is our vehicle for liberation in this life. So we need to treat it with the kindness and respect that often we forget or we have no time to give to it. So I'm on quite a high chair. I'm just shifting about a bit to make sure my back is not stooped. I like to roll my shoulders a little bit. Maybe that works for you too. Or have a stretch if you've just woken up. And sometimes it can be helpful just to take a long breath in and a relaxing sigh as you breathe out. And allow the body to relax that little bit more. And remembering that meditation is not about getting anywhere. It's not about what's going to happen next or in the future, at the end of the path. It's all about arriving here and now in this moment, in this body, with this state of mind, and offering a genuine welcome to whatever you experience right now. As though you're welcoming a friend who's just come into your house, your home. And you want to give them a warm welcome. You're curious as to how they are, how they feel. And you want to put them at ease. Tend to them with kindness. Help them to relax. And we can treat ourselves as that friend who's just come into the house or the home of our mental awareness. See if you can put some of those beautiful qualities of welcoming, ease, respect, curiosity inside that home, inside your own mind, ready to welcome each moment, each unique, precious moment as it arises for you. And to help you arrive more fully in this moment, perhaps allowing your awareness infused with kindness to start spreading through the body, gently at your own speed, in your own time. Perhaps starting at the top of the head, just allowing that kind awareness to hover, to notice any sensations at the top of the head and around the scalp. With that welcoming, curious and kind attitude towards whatever you experience right now. Trying to make anything happen or push anything away. Just resting. And allowing your awareness to continue to spread across the forehead, brow, allowing any tension to be released. As though the whole face were being lit up by gentle sunshine. You're just receiving those gentle rays, relaxing your eyes, letting them rest in their sockets. Relaxing your cheeks, noticing any sensations or maybe different sensations in your cheeks, across your nose and inside your nose. The upper lip, the lower lip and the chin, the jaw. Allowing the jaw to be soft, the tongue to relax. Noticing your ears and maybe any sensations you experience outside or inside the ears. Allowing this kind awareness to continue to flow through the throat, the neck, open and receptive to any feelings you experience. Giving any tightness or tension permission relax. Again, as though a gentle golden sunshine were just beating down on your shoulders, perhaps seeping right through into the muscles. Allowing your shoulders to expand, soften, and relax. Spreading down your arms, around the arms, perhaps deep inside, through the skin and the flesh, to any area that you feel some sensation. Just remaining curious, open, and kind. Noticing the elbows, the wrists, the hands, fingers, each and every finger, from the base to the tip. Taking this opportunity to pour all your care into each and every finger. Perhaps noticing them respond, perhaps with tingling or softness. And starting at the base of the neck, the top of the chest. Opening to any sensations you experience in the chest area. Taking time to give a little bit more attention to any parts of your body which are maybe unwell, tense, painful. Or perhaps areas that you don't feel any sensation, just staying there a little bit longer to allow the mindfulness to increase. You can pick up increasingly subtle sensations and give them some kindness and care. If you notice any reactivity, just let it be. No judgment. Part of the body is painful. See how it feels to move slightly away or perhaps expand the area of your awareness to where that sensation softens, becomes more easy to bear. Always being very gentle, making absolutely no demands. As you move around the ribs, down to the belly, the diaphragm, the whole stomach area. Just noticing, perhaps you can sense the breath moving in the belly. Notice if you can allow your belly to soften, to hang. Embracing any feelings of discomfort, perhaps anxiety or stress that can be held in the tummy. Taking the time to just be with them in a loving, compassionate way. And spreading this wonderful kindfulness, awareness infused with kindness down the back, from the top of the back of the shoulders and shoulder blades, across the whole width of your back, including the spine. Receiving any sensations you experience as you travel gently down your back, to the waist area, to the hips, to your buttocks. Noticing if there's pressure, heaviness, softness, whatever sensation you experience, or different types of sensations as you explore the feelings in your buttocks. Taking the time to care. And allowing this kindfulness to soak through the thighs, maybe both thighs together, maybe one at a time, whatever works for you. Just picking up any sensations, perhaps on the outer part of the thigh, the skin, perhaps deep inside to the muscles, flesh, the bones. Just allowing everything to be as you explore the whole thigh area down to your knees. Giving any part of your knee a bit of extra attention if there's strain there, tightness, maybe an old injury. Allowing your awareness to soak right through your knees. Imagining this kindfulness healing any sprains, any tendons. Giving your knees permission to relax. Continuing this journey down your shins, your calves. Noticing how they feel. Right down to your ankles, your ankle bones. And into your feet. Exploring the whole foot from the heel to the bridge of the foot, the whole sole. From the top of your feet, noticing any sensations you experience right now. Remaining open and curious, and giving them some care. Allowing your feet to really relax, right the way down to your toes. Noticing the area where the toes meet your foot. And spreading awareness into each and every toe, from the base to the tip. Giving them the attention they really receive, with gratitude to your toes. And perhaps now, staying with that feeling in your toes, the tips of the toes, but also noticing your fingertips at the same time. Areas of the body which are often quite sensitive, but quite pleasant or easy to be with. Just tuning in to the sensations there, maybe tingling, softness, lightness. Notice any other pleasant sensations in your body right now. Maybe at the level of the skin, maybe at the top or maybe a sense of the whole body being a little bit more relaxed. Just tuning in to whatever ease and relaxation is available for you right now. You're not looking for anything special, blissful, intense, but just a general sense of ease, spaciousness, awareness, suffused with kindness for your whole body mind. This being, this body that you live inside, this mind, your emotional world. Just resting with yourself as though you're with a dear friend. A friend who's now that little bit more at ease, who feels valued, who feels seen. And to increase that sense of goodwill towards yourself, see if any good wishes come to mind. Wishing yourself well. May I be happy and at ease. May I be kind to myself, no matter how I feel. May I be healthy. May I be safe. May I be at peace. Finding whatever resonates for you. Maybe using words, maybe simply conveying that sense of kindness to yourself emotionally, energetically, but sincerely from your heart, wishing yourself well. Now to end the meditation, just allowing any feelings of peace, of relaxation, even pleasure, to start spreading outwards to all the people in this virtual Dhamma hall right now. offering them the gift of peace, safety, happiness, and health. May we all be happy, healthy. May we all be safe. May we be at peace. May all beings be happy, healthy, safe, and at peace. Keeping these benevolent thoughts and any sense of ease close to your heart as we end this meditation, and in your own time, if you wish, you can gently open your eyes. So, I hope that was relaxing and perhaps brightening for you. It was for me. I think I must have needed a little body scan there. Because that wasn't really my intention. But it's really amazing when you sort of come to these talks or Zoom rooms, sometimes something else comes out that you didn't expect. And yeah, I'm learning to trust that a little bit more. But I did have a theme in mind for today, because I asked myself, what is the predominant emotion in my mind, and what have I gained from 5 months in Perth? It's an amazing blessing to have been here so long. And Natalia was here with me actually until a couple of months ago. And when I saw all the rains retreatants leaving, I just couldn't believe it. It's like, I still have 2 more months. Wow. It's like 2 whole months. That's like almost an extra rains retreat. And it's been such an incredibly resourcing and nourishing time for me. I had tons of time to practice, lots of time to actually attend to my health, which in my case meant to fast. And I don't recommend it to anybody just as a fad, but it was a medical procedure that I tried, which was very, very helpful for my condition and enabled me to then have a lot more time and ability to actually to enjoy my sitting meditation, which had been a struggle until then due to my gastric condition. And also at the end of the meditation, well, let's say rains retreat, which is a time of more, I suppose, focused. It's a strange word, but it's a time that's specifically set aside by monastics yearly for their practice to deepen their meditation. But because I stayed longer, I also had time to deepen connections with many of my spiritual friends over here, not only my teachers, but also the wider community, people I've known for 15 years or less. But, I've been coming here a long time, and it's just been so nourishing. And the other evening I was walking through the forest, and I noticed that the emotion I was feeling was joy. So I thought that joy would be a nice emotion to talk about today, especially because I know it's the middle of the winter for many of you, if not all of you there. And it can be a little bit dark and gloomy, and joy is the last thing on our mind. And of course, I've had the luxury of not being too exposed to a lot of the tragic things that are happening always in the world. And so joy is bubbling up for me right now. And it made me reflect, on how we define joy, what our relationship is to joy. I think for some of us, and myself included, I can sometimes sometimes think of joy as a little bit fickle. Isn't it a fleeting emotion? Isn't it something that's not very reliable, not very stable? Or sometimes we think that it's just too far out of reach, or maybe it's undeserved, especially given some of the atrocities that are happening, in this world, some of the political instability or fear around, the way things are going. Do we really deserve to feel joy? And isn't there a danger in it? What if we feel too much joy? Isn't it going to make the hard times worse? Isn't the contrast going to be even more devastating between feeling happy one moment and sorrow the next? But what I realized with this kind of joy is that it was sort of bubbling up inside me as a result of so many months of practice. And of course, a part of that is keeping the virtue of a bhikkhuni as best I can, a life of inner purity, again, to the best of my ability or the conditions. I think it's less about ability or anything personal and more about, how we're supported in our practice. And also what I recognized was that I was having a few little tears. And sometimes I interpret those tears, especially when I'm about to leave, as sadness and grief. And actually, it was more a sense of feeling deeply moved by everything I've received. And it brought to mind, Ajahn Brahm's story about how he felt when his father died. Something that I often find a little incredulous, I think that must be something like he's just special, right? Or he was born a stream winner or something like this. He's never said that. But of course, there are people born stream winners. They have to have 7 or 6 or anyway, up to 7 more lives. So, but at this moment, I could understand what he meant. It was a slight change in perception from feeling the grief for what I was losing to realizing there was so much to rejoice in and be happy for. And as I recognized that, the joy increased, and I felt more trust in that emotion, because it seemed like something born of gratitude, something born of recognizing the blessings of my life. And we all have those blessings. You might think, as I'm speaking, that, well, that's easy for you. You've been on retreat, you're in this amazing forest. Yeah, we have 300 acres of bush. And so many good spiritual friends, all the essentials, the requisites for monastic life are in abundance here. You don't have to ask. Sometimes it almost seems as though a thought comes to mind, it'd be nice to have some mango, and there's the mango the next day. Actually, I can't take it because it's not good for my stomach, but never mind. Somehow it feels quite magical that everything is provided here. So, it's easy to think, yeah, quite easy to be joyful in such a context. But of course, the monks and nuns are not happy all the time. And I've noticed that sometimes it seems the longer we stay in certain conditions, we get used to it and we start to take it a little bit for granted. So I asked myself, is this conditional on where I am? And I realized it was less conditional on that than on this inner happiness that was arising through the practice. For example, it was 39 degrees that day, so it certainly wasn't comfortable physically. And so joy is certainly more than a pleasant feeling. It can be associated with pleasant physical sensations or, things going our way, external conditions, and a certain amount of baseline happiness is needed, of course. It's going to be very difficult for somebody to experience, and it's also wrong for us to expect them to experience joy in a situation where they're being oppressed or abused or, having all kinds of atrocities perpetrated upon them. It's going to be difficult to find what we might consider joy. But still, I remember this quote from Viktor Frankl in his book, The Man's Search for Meaning. And I confess, like most people who've heard this quote, I haven't read the whole book. But he says, there's always one last dignity or last choice that a human being has, and that is to choose how to respond in any given situation. So to some extent, we have some influence over how we relate to what happens in our lives. And, you know, in a situation of extreme suffering, we might not relate with joy or with metta, but we can still generate and develop compassion and understand that all beings, you know, whatever we experience, whatever kind of suffering we experience, other beings experience it too and have experienced it throughout history or will experience it sometime in the future. So this is part of our predicament as human beings, and that can engender a sense of reaching out rather than wallowing and, you know, feeling that our own situation is hopeless. We can actually reach out to others with a sense that we understand. And it is remarkable that in those situations, often people pull together in ways we could never, you know, imagine could be possible. You might think it's a kind of a fight for the last of the resources, you know, the food that's being offered by international aid. But what you actually tend to find is that human beings start to support each other. And that is a source of joy, if not immediately, certainly in the long run, because we're opening our hearts. So before I get more into this subject, and gosh, the time is just flying, I wanted to talk a bit about how we can cultivate joy, and the joy that doesn't rely on feelings in the body. Because I notice, you know, at least with most people who are not practicing, that the happiness they experience in life really does depend on, say, their physical health, especially as people get older. You know, there are all kinds of aches and pains. Our energy levels aren't the same as they were. We can't enjoy the same things because of that. Maybe we can't even leave the house, right? I know there's at least one or two people here whose lives have become significantly smaller geographically, and yet perhaps not so internally if we're wise. And so we need to find another source of joy that comes from within, and not to rely on the sensations or the feelings that the Buddha said are of three kinds. They're either pleasant for a while, or they're painful, or they're somewhere in between, you know, and that somewhere in between is where most of us live most of the time. Nothing very exciting happening, you know, a lot of the time our awareness turns off because we don't think there's much to be aware of. We don't feel the subtler feelings, whether physical or emotional. We just don't notice the happiness, the ease that's there. So the Buddha said that these kind of feelings, you know, are not reliable. They're impermanent. They are suffering in and of themselves by their very nature, including the pleasant ones. You know, I practiced for many years, as I know other people in this group did, in the Goenka tradition, and the main focus is on the changeability of physical bodily sensations. And at times there is a lot of pleasant sensation. But at some point it becomes rather agitating, because there's just this incessant arising and passing that's going on all the time. And it can be quite intense, you know, and almost a relief when it settles down. So even the pleasant sensation is not necessarily a source of joy. And of course, even if you are attached to it, it ends, right? And then you have the pain to follow. There was this little study done, I think, on Matthew Ricard. He's a Tibetan monk, French originally. And they tried to test how happy he is by doing some kind of study on his brain and, you know, the circuits that go off in response to pleasure. So they were doing it to kind of contrast what we would call hedonic pleasure, which is like the pleasure that I just described, pleasure of agreeable feelings, with something called eudaimonic happiness, which is more the pleasure of, let's say, virtue, because compassion is a virtue. So what they did was give him his favorite food, which happened to be muesli, which to me is like chewing like horse food or something. Anyway, he loves muesli. So for him, that was pleasure. And they tested his brain, and they saw the pleasure receptors go off. And after this, with his full permission, they inflicted a mild electric shock, I think it was, or an injection or something like this. And they found that the pain was worse. They must have done a control. They found that the pain was worse after eating the muesli because the contrast between the pleasure and the pain was bigger. They did it again, but this time they asked him to generate the happiness, let's say, of compassion. So, he's quite well practiced in this. So he would think about somebody that was suffering and focus on that relief, the relief from their suffering. Compassion isn't about wallowing with them. Yes, you empathize, you resonate with the sadness, with the particular flavor of suffering, and that can be more powerful if you've experienced something similar yourself. But it's about focusing on, may they be free from that suffering, and actually imagining them free and trying, hopefully, to do something that will help soothe their pain and will help bring about that freedom. So he was practicing compassion, and then afterwards, getting quite happy. They waited until the happiness receptors went off quite strongly. And then again, they gave that mild electric shock or whatever it was. And they found that it hardly had an impact. So the pain didn't really register because he was so much more resourced. So this is very interesting. It shows that there are two very distinct types of happiness. One that actually resources us to face disappointments, pain, suffering, dejection, whatever it is. And one that actually almost makes us so dependent that we lose our capacity to face difficulties in life. We become almost a little bit too fragile, and that can happen in monastic life as well. We can get a bit complacent when things are really easy and there's nothing much to stimulate that sense of compassion and that the beauty of what it really is to live a blameless life. So I wanted to talk a little bit, of course, that there is some pleasure in the world. The Buddha didn't say there isn't. And we can find joy in simple things. We can find joy in more wholesome aspects of the five sense world, like being in nature, walking by the river or sitting under a tree. And the Buddha himself practiced meditation outdoors, often under a tree because it was shady, it was protective, and, you can learn so much from nature. The laws of nature are there. Nature's something you can't control very much. It's not under our control. And it gives us a sense of awe, a sense of respect. And of course, it has all those qualities of impermanence, of change, of decay. So in a sense, it's very grounding. And in neuroscience these days, there's actually little phrases that they've coined to help regulate the nervous system. One of the methods is to go and look at something beautiful, like a flower. And at some point, a little spark of happiness can arise, and they call that little flicker a glow. Oh, no, sorry, I think it's a glimmer, a glimmer. So it's like when you light a candle flame, but it takes a few goes and it's just starting, it's just glimmering a little bit, yeah? You just see something beautiful, or you look to the horizon, or you look up in the sky and you get this little glimmer and it cuts through the kind of despair or sense of anxiety, perhaps. And then if you look longer for, say, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and you really allow yourself to absorb that sense impression, they call that a glow. So that's like when you actually light the candle flame. I'm sure Paul has a lot of candle flames behind it, whether they're real or not, probably, because you live in a very cozy house. So if that candle's glowing, that's what happens when we kind of absorb the beauty around us, the wholesome goodness. And it's the same thing by, when we absorb the wholesome qualities of our mind. If we just stay with it for a little while, somebody thanks you and you say, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, thanks, well, it's nothing. It doesn't even glimmer, does it, really? You're kind of pushing it away, snubbing the candle. But if you can take that in and stay with that and think, oh, they're actually thanking me here. Hang on a minute, how does that feel? Maybe I did something to help somebody. Yeah, that feels good. Just today I got an email from our admin team and they said, I wanted to let you know that one of the supporters who watched a Zoom session has sent you a card from her 7-year-old daughter. And the card has a handmade drawing by this 7-year-old daughter of the Buddha. And it says something like, thank you for making my mom a better mom. And I was in a hurry, so I kind of read it really quickly and I just said, oh, that's sweet, and sent a quick email. And afterwards I remembered I'm giving a talk on joy. hang on a minute. A 7-year-old child has noticed that by coming to the Dhamma session, just a Zoom session, it made her mom a better mom. I mean, that's amazing, isn't it? Because that's obviously influenced the daughter, it's benefited the daughter at the practical level, but it's also inspired her to understand that there's something in this Dhamma, there's something in the practice of meditation and Buddhism. She's drawn the Buddha and sent it to me. That's, how gratitude manifests as a physical action. And someone is sending that card, not for me to shrug it off, but for me to feel the happiness and for me to be encouraged, not inflated, but encouraged to continue serving in ways that I have no idea how far that ripples out. I have no idea. It can't be quantified. It's not about the number of people at any session. It's not about, getting someone to enlightenment. Wonderful if it happens. And maybe this life, it might happen to any one of us, right? But the benefits that we get along the way are enormous because they're coming from a really deep source. They're coming from the Dhamma. This is not any old stuff. These are the Buddha's teachings represented as best I can through my practice and whatever I read in the suttas. But I mean, we all practice together and we're all growing on this path together. And for me, seeing the community grow is an enormous source of joy. Another source of joy can be simple relaxation. I asked Ayaseri, who was just teaching a weekend retreat, I grabbed her before she left. I said, "Joy, what does it mean to you?" She said, "Peace, equanimity." I was like, okay, great. Is that too simple? Does that sound too simple? Just peace. And this is something we have to sort of learn to tune up to in our meditation. Because sometimes we're looking for sparks and I don't know what, fireworks and bright lights and, superpower mindfulness or superpower bliss. But quite often, more often than that, for me anyway, it's a subtle sense of contentment, a subtle sense of, yeah, this is okay. My life is going in a good direction. I'm safe. I have food. I have a place to stay. I have a moment of quiet. I have the opportunity to just be with my mind and to learn a little bit of kindness and compassion towards it. And that is peace. There's a sense of peace. It's really not in the object. It's in how we savor and soak in the blessings of our lives. They can seem so humble, but as soon as we notice them, they become sort of predominant in the forefront of our mind. If we just keep pushing them away or overlaying them with kind of intense sensory impressions, then we don't notice the joy of the mind. And of course, virtue. I have to say that, my retreat was wonderful in many ways, but I noticed a couple of occasions that I just got this sense of like glee, pure joy and glee. And actually it was related to saving insects in my shower. One time I went in my shower and there was this really squiggly kind of thing. First I thought it was a bit of thread that was all knotted up. And then I noticed it was the saddest, wettest, most bedraggled scorpion that I'd ever seen, just like curled up in the bottom of my shower. And I thought, oh no, it's certainly dead. So I stopped the shower, never mind if I'm cold, and looked at this sad little thing. And I realized that actually it looked dead. I wasn't completely sure, but I thought it could still be alive. So I can't remember how I got it out. I think I just got a piece of paper and I put it on the bathroom floor. And I just kept it on this piece of toilet tissue to see if that could soak up some of the moisture. But I looked outside and it was still kind of just, no movement at all. So I just thought it's dead. But I kept looking out of my shower and having a check. And at one point I saw its little scorpion thing. I think its front paw is like a claw, isn't it? I don't know if you've seen scorpions. They've got two front claws and then one thingy at the back like this. It's all the protection they have. They're not going to just attack somebody for no reason. I think the more vulnerable the being, and maybe it goes for us as humans too, the more we need a little bit of poison or something. We have to be defensive because we're scared, because we're vulnerable, right? That's why people who are scared and frightened and fearful start attacking people that look different or people that have a different religion, you know, because they are quite insecure, let's say. So anyway, this little scorpion claw came on the toilet paper and I was so happy. And then by the time I finished my shower, half its body was there and I could put it outside. And I remember just jumping like, yes, yes, it's alive, it's alive. And it might sound kind of silly, but this was pure joy for me. And I think this is related, you know, to virtue, because sometimes we think, oh yeah, virtue, you don't kill living beings, you know, you don't steal, you don't have bad speech, etc. But actually, the first precept is about loving kindness. It's about protecting life as something incredibly sacred. And for that little scorpion, you know, that was its life. I told one of my other bhikkhuni sisters, she said, it's amazing, isn't it? As bhikkhunis, we can feel happy for such small things. Isn't it wonderful? And I said, yeah, I guess it's a small thing. But actually, for that scorpion, it was a big deal, right? It's life or death. So yeah, the same thing happened with spiders. I better hurry up because the time's absolutely flying and I haven't even got through, I don't know, even a fifth of what I wanted to say, but hopefully you're enjoying it anyway. I just feel joy. I feel genuine joy to be connected. And I think, you know, that's the other thing, isn't it? Relationships are a source of enormous joy. The Buddha said that there are 4 kinds of friends, and I haven't had a chance to remind myself the 4. But one kind of friend is like a person who helps you, a friend who's a helper. There's a friend who's an advisor, you know, like a spiritual friend. There are friends who keep your secrets and who you can entrust your secrets to. There are friends that will not forsake you when it's difficult, when you're going through a time of suffering or grief. These are the benefits of having wonderful friends. And of course, the best friend of all is a spiritual teacher like the Buddha or like any one of us. We're all spiritual friends for each other. We encourage each other on the path. We gladden each other with words that are uplifting, I hope, or even with silence. You know, many of you come to the Tuesday, well, a few of you anyway, come to the Tuesday and Thursday silent meditation group. I don't know if you even say hello. You didn't used to. I think you just turn it on, see each other, and close your eyes. Open your eyes, see each other, and turn it off. So why do people do that? Because it reminds them that there are other really wonderful people in this world. I wanted to ask one of you permission before I share this story, but I'll do it somewhat anonymously. But I do hope it's okay. Please forgive me if not. But I thought it was inspiring because one person here recently lost a friend. And this person lived on a raft on the river for 40 years, somewhere in London. And they lived a really simple life and died at the age of 84. And in a way, sort of you could say there was some tragedy around it. You know, one of the photographs that they sent me was very viscerally quite intense because it showed the beautiful raft that he built. And I mean, it was basically what you call a shack on water, right? Something that most of us would think was a terrible life. But you could see this person loved the river and it was incredibly idyllic on a sunny day. And it was his home, right? His little nest from where he tended to the water and looked after the wildlife and lived a very simple, harmless life. And then in this other photo, there was a picture of this big kind of crane that came in. It was literally a claw, like that scorpion claw, only much, much bigger, just coming in to take that, to take his raft away after he passed away. And the person also told me that, yes, he'd lived there for 40 years, but on 3 different rafts because twice vandals had come and wrecked the thing, actually set it on fire. So then the thought came in my mind, human beings are so cruel. And then I thought, is that really true? Okay, that's happened twice in 40 years. How can I say human beings in general are cruel? How many people would have walked past that raft? How many people would he have got to know? How many people would just feel, you know, a sense of respect and give him that safety and allow him to live his life the way he chose? Probably hundreds of thousands. You know, this was in a city. Probably hundreds of thousands of kind people living and letting live. And yet we can focus in on those events that seem tragic and unfair. And I guess, yeah, I mean, I'm going all over the place now, but it just reminded me that generally human beings are incredibly kind, incredibly kind. I mean, I don't want to in any way make light of, the terrible things that are happening in the world, but then think about how many billion people live in the world. Even if it's several million that are currently involved in wars, maybe it's more, I hope not. Still, there are billions, several billion, living in peace. And it's something to really bring to mind. This is how the practice of mudita, which is really what we're talking about here, this kind of joy that rejoices in other people's happiness, in our own blessings, in our own success, in the blessings of our lives. It needs to be balanced, If we practice compassion all the time, focusing on freeing others from suffering, freeing ourselves from suffering, we can start to get a kind of sense that the world is in a big mess. But we also need to focus on joy and learn to celebrate each other's success, especially if we're doing wholesome things that really help people come out of suffering. So these kind of practices can be very helpful. And I just want to touch on one more thing so that there is still time to have some discussion. I really hope that you're up for that, because I am cutting things short. I want to reconnect with you all. Is that we can actually increase our own joy through these practices, for example, of mudita. So the example that comes to mind for me is, again, of walking through the forest that evening just a couple of days ago and recognizing that my sadness was actually a sense of gratitude and joy for everything I've received. And at that time, I realized that was okay, that was allowed to me. And I started repeating phrases to myself, like, I think I say, well done, I'm so happy for myself, I'm so happy for you, dear. You can speak to yourself kindly. I know it sounds a bit weird in a Dhamma talk to say, I'm so happy for you, darling, or sweetheart. But when you do it sincerely from the heart, it's very beautiful. So I was telling myself, I'm so happy for you. Well done. You've had a wonderful time. Isn't it wonderful? May you succeed in your practice. May you succeed in serving the Dhamma. May your happiness last and increase. May you learn to trust this joy. Whatever phrases came to mind. And as soon as I was saying that to myself, the joy just got so much deeper. Not more kind of fickle or kind of buzzy or whatever, but just deeper and more nourishing and really resourcing. And I noticed after that, actually, that one morning somebody came to me in a slightly confrontational way, not very confrontational, because this is a Dhamma place and people really train here in loving speech. But I noticed that often I might react with a little bit of self-defense, but instead, because I felt resourced, I could just recognize, oh, they're feeling a bit insecure. And I was able to say that, no, that wasn't my intention. My intention was something else. And then just give them extra kindness that day, so that when I saw them, I just made an effort to have a chat, talk to them, offer them a cup of tea. And this is because I was resourced. I think it was the same thing with Ajahn Brahm, why could he have so much gratitude when his father, the person he really looked up to and loved, when he died, Ajahn Brahm was Peter and he was 16 years old. How could he have so much joy and gratitude and hardly experience any grief, if any? To be honest, he says he didn't experience any. And I think to some extent it's because he was resourced. But why was he resourced? Because he practiced gratitude most of his life. He practiced reflecting in this way. He practiced, really savoring the benefits, the blessings of his life. So this is something I want to encourage us all to do, to reflect in this way, to condition ourselves in this way, to pick up the subtle joys and allow them to inform our meditation. You can do this even before you sit. You could maybe write a few things down in a gratitude journal, and really take some time. Don't just read a one-line email and quickly turn it off. Take it in. Whatever somebody said to you that makes you feel, yeah, you've helped them in some way, or you can thank yourself for things you've done as well. And then sit to meditate and allow that joy to nourish your mind. And you'll notice that as the meditation settles and the mind settles, the joy becomes increasingly peaceful, increasingly subtle. And this is a really wholesome kind of joy. The joy of meditation gets increasingly peaceful. It's the joy of stillness. It's the joy of letting go. And it starts to move beyond the five sense realm into the mind. And it gives the mind so much power, so much mindfulness, so much happiness that we're resourced to see the difficult truths of impermanence, suffering, and non-self. We need that resourcing. We might think we understand these truths, but actually we still feel somewhat repelled from the depth of that. You know, we say, oh yeah, it's all impermanent, but not everything. There must be something that's permanent. Nibbana's permanent, isn't it? Isn't it permanent happiness? for me, you know, okay, it's non-self, but I'm still going to be there to enjoy it, right? Surely. Because it's very scary to think that everything ceases. We think that we're ready for this, but then why can't we let go even of the body and get into the deep meditations? Why are we scared when we see the bright lights or when we start to experience spiritual joy? Because we're losing something of ourselves. But the more we can really, you know, get a taste and start to trust the quiet, wholesome joy that comes from virtue, that comes from having beautiful spiritual friendships, from, you know, having, I don't know, I did write lots of things down, just reflecting on the way we serve, you know, on our lives, on the meanings of our lives, on helping our friends through difficult times, etc., etc. The more we can do this and allow it to bring up that happiness in meditation, the easier it is to let go. So I offer this for your reflection. I guess I'm used to giving longer talks now, so I have gone over time. But I think I'm just genuinely delighted to see you, and I hope that some of that was helpful or resonated in some way for you. And remember, you know, joy can come through difficulty too. It can come through connecting with our pain and our suffering without rejecting it, but with a lot of tenderness, a lot of patience, respect, not putting pressure on ourselves to feel anything other than we feel, but allowing our hearts to open up with a sense of compassion and goodwill. So we still have time. And if we do end up getting into some discussion and it goes on a bit longer, then please feel welcome to leave at any time. You don't have to ask permission. You can just boom, poof, gone. That's how it's going to happen in the end anyway. So suddenly we're gone. So yeah, if you'd like to speak or write anything in the chat, please feel free. I'll read out comments. If you prefer to not have your voice on the recording, your video will not be on the recording, only your voice. And if you can use your virtual hand, that will be very helpful. So I see that there's one in the chat and one on the screen. So I'll come to Richard, who has his hand up. He's pointing to his hand, so he's very eager. So we'll come to Richard and to hear what you have to say.
Hello. Hello, Venerable. Nice to see you. Basically, as far as joy and gratitude was concerned, so recently I was helping out this helping out this group of people in China. You know, so I'm sending around the world images of Guru Rinpoche. You know, there's a group of people, you know, so based in China, you know,
Yeah.
They got a teacher who's actually Tibetan, you know.
Yeah.
And they're actually sending around images made of granite, which was a diamond cut images of Guru Rinpoche of various sizes, you know. So like I was at, you know, and it's sort of based on a prophecy of Guru Rinpoche, you know, and Guru Rinpoche had actually prophesied that there's supposed to be a war in 2030. So, you know, here they sort of actually sort of suggested that people, you know, send all these images around the planet, you know, to actually protect the world, you know.
Okay.
We sent out in this, you know, at this time in this year, you know, which is the year in this year of the dragon, 2024. So I saw this advertised on Facebook, and I thought I'd actually help. So, I got in contact with this lady, and I said, I offered to help. So the lady actually got in contact with this man in China, somewhere in southern China, who obviously has a lot of money, because these statues are made of granite, and they're very, very heavy. And I was sent 6 small ones and one very large one, which was about 300 millimeters wide and 600 millimeters high and 30 millimeters wide. So they're actually diamond cut granite statues. They're huge things, really massive, great big thing. So God knows how much they cost to send. And it's not just myself. There's actually loads of people around the world who are volunteering to do all this. So it's to help the planet and to help spread merit and spread virtue, just to protect the planet. And whether this is all true or not, I have a faintest idea. But it seems a really good thing to do.
Yeah, well, my question for you really, or comment to that, is that it's all about what uplifts your heart. If this makes you feel happy, and if this makes you feel connected, and that you can do something that helps. We never know what the outcome is, right? We never know what the outcome is. We just know where our intention is. And if we send those statues or whatever it is we send with a lot of love and kindness, then there's a chance that people will receive that message. So yeah, great. Thank you very much. I'm going to come to the chat box, and someone here is, I'm not going to read your name just in case you want it to be anonymous. So research shows that gratitude is greatly developed recollecting when we received thanks or observed others receiving thanks. This makes me think of the meal blessings of Anumodana chanting, such a beautiful practice for developing gratitude and appreciation of goodness. I had so many examples for you. That was one of them. I only got through about 2. But it is really lovely, that at the beginning of a meal, usually monastics, but sometimes everyone who's on a retreat can do a little reflection, about just reminding ourselves that it depends. There's all kinds of different ones that we can do, but I like the ones that do say something around gratitude for the food, reflecting on all the people that were involved in producing the food, in harvesting the food, and bringing the food to the shops and selling the food, and offering the food, of course, and then that we eat the food remembering this. And really, as a monastic, you're eating kindness. You're eating people's generosity and kindness. That's why it tastes so good. And then remembering that, the food is for the purpose of our spiritual practice. It's not for pleasure. It's not for beautification. It's not for, just enjoyment, although it's good to, have an appetite for the food that you eat. It's about keeping us healthy so that we can practice for the goal of the holy life, or for the goal of the Dhamma, right? It's the same for all of us, the holy life or not. Presumably everybody that practices, whether you think it's possible or not, is practicing for Nibbana. You're taking steps in that direction. And without craving for the goal, you are moving in that direction every time you do something kind, every time you have a thought of gratitude, every time you use the blessings of your life to benefit others. This is part of the path. So, all right. Thank you. A very profound but accessible topic. Good. I'm glad that it came across as accessible and that you have gratitude, because that will be a joyful quality for you. I have felt overwhelmed by suffering in the world, but I've noticed that in the past that I rationalized it, packaged it up, subtly tried to compassion it away, etc. Great, you've made a new verb, to compassion away. Yeah, we met it away, we everything away sometimes in the practice. We mindfulness it away. Yeah, we do a deal. I'll be mindful if you change. Not unconditional mindfulness. I'm attempting to approach it differently now, and I still feel confused and emotional at times, but I'm trying to be more honest about it all through my practice. Beautiful. Yeah. That's great. I mean, it is all about how we approach. And of course, we are going to feel confused and emotional at times, and that's to be expected. I think, you say you still do. You probably will until you're at least probably, I don't know. I think Anagamis still have some restlessness and some conceit. So you're going to have these kind of emotions coming up throughout the path. And it isn't so important as to what's coming up. It's quite, as you say, it's about how we learn to relate to them differently, frame them differently. If we see the confusion and the emotion as a chance to understand the mind, understand the causes of these afflictive and, joyful emotions, then we're deepening our wisdom. And another way sometimes I think can be helpful is to really embrace the suffering with the sense that by understanding it, by embracing it, I'm then going to be able to connect with others who go through something similar, especially if something happens to us that we really can't avoid, something traumatic or something that's really difficult to bear. I was reading a book recently about the loss of a child. It's a book published here by one of the, she's an ex-president of the BSWA, and her son was found, she found her own son dead on his bed at 30 years old one morning, the morning that they used to do things as mother and son together. They used to go grocery shopping. He was fit, healthy, successful, in the prime of his life. And I read this book, and I have to admit, I was just streaming with tears from the first page. It was the way it was written, it was just so, you were going with her step by step as she's finding the son dead on his bed. And she wrote this book and found her healing through turning that compassion into service for others. And she supported other mothers who'd been through the same. So she went to groups, she went to, groups of other bereaved mothers, families, etc., and had to embrace the emotions, feeling she was dying, basically. I'm sure that unless anybody's actually lost a child, we can sort of imagine, but not really. And I just found it so inspiring, because Buddhism isn't about squashing feelings down. It's about learning how they arise, how we feed them, right? But also how we can, in a sense, learn to respond to them with the three right intentions. I mean, from right view, which is to understand suffering, the cause, the way out, etc. The consequence of that is right motivation, the next factor on the path. In a way, understanding suffering leads naturally to compassion, to loving kindness, to, letting go. So there is a meaning to these things that we experience, even if they are overwhelming. But yeah, I still think it's helpful to see if we can pull back a little bit before we're overwhelmed, because we don't need to actually inflict extra suffering on ourselves by being exposed to it, especially when we can't do much to help. So yeah, trying to be honest about it all, that's great. And I guess that's what we're talking about. Yeah. Okay. I remember, okay, we've got a couple in the chat and then one here, and then I'll try and wrap up. I remember one of the happiest days of my life was when I helped several people with small things on a bus and received their thanks. Or the other passengers seemed to pick up on that happiness too, and the whole atmosphere felt lifted. Isn't that wonderful? It's like it restores faith in everyone. Faith in human goodness. It's just beautiful, such small things. Now I can't get out that much or interact so often with people, so it can feel there's not much I can do to serve others, but it brings up a lot of joy when I do get the opportunity, even if it's just being there for a friend over the phone. Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, that's great. And I mean, it is wonderful to feel we can help others. But we can still, help ourselves. We can still do wonderful things for ourselves, even if it's just giving ourselves forgiveness, giving ourselves time, being really gentle. And you can remember those things. It's not that you have to do them again and again. If you actually recollect that time, that happiest day on the bus, and actually use it in your meditation. Like literally take time to recreate the situation in your mind until the joy starts coming. Apparently, according to neuroscience, it can be almost as impacting, or if not the same, as the actual event, because the brain doesn't really recognize the difference between a real life experience and a memory of it. So, and you serve by being in our group, by the way. I mean that genuinely, because it's just a blessing to have all of you here. And it's also wonderful when I get a sense that I can serve all of you. It's whether we feel we're the ones serving another, or we're the ones receiving the service, it's all the same, because to receive is also a gift for someone else, and to give is a gift as well. So anyway, I'm probably not being very articulate at this point, but I hope I'm making sense. Okay, thank you for honoring my friend. That's nice. I really would have liked to ask you permission first. I'm feeling joy and gratitude for his life and us all. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so I'm going to come to Diana, and then we shall close. Hi, nice to see you after so long.
Thank you for this wonderful talk, Venerable Canda. There were so many points that you brought up that really touched me and that I'll be thinking about. The comment I wanted to make was about the man on the raft, and what you said about how when something terrible happens in the world, it's so easy to say people are so horrible. People are so terrible. People are so messed up, But you pointed out all the people that were kind, all the people that were accepting, all the people that might have been friendly or at least tolerant, even if it made them feel uncomfortable or strange that somebody was living by choice in such a different way.
Yeah.
And you're right. Most of the people in the world are not terrible. They're not doing horrible, heinous acts, And where we put our attention and where we focus and how we behave, has such an impact too. So I just wanted to say thank you for bringing that up. And also I'm so happy to see you.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, because in a sense, we build our world through how we see it, how we perceive it. And I think if we perceive it as a cruel and scary place, then we tend to be a little bit defensive or shut down, But if we can perceive it as a loving place, as a benevolent place, then it can help us to relate to it that way, and that just increases it. We're literally creating our societies by the way we live inside them, by the way we form them. That's something that is really a huge source of joy, and I did want to tell you all before I come back, and that okay, there's a bit of sadness to leave, but actually the main emotion is just, yes, it's time now to start serving again. Like, I really want to do this. I really want to keep building community, and it's just such a privilege to actually see it form and to feel something coming together that didn't exist. It's like it wasn't there and now it is. And no matter how small it might seem, I mean, it's not that small because there's all of you here right now. It's something new. And I don't know. I just feel so moved by seeing good people come together and gravitate towards being around other people with the same intention to develop in Dhamma. It's really incredible and inspiring for me to watch that happen. And of course, as a bhikkhuni, it's impossible that I can exist without people being kind and generous and, thinking of others apart from themselves. So, with that in mind, I shall now invite Shirley to say a few words about how you can be involved and help us to continue this work. So.
Thank you, Venerable. It's so good to have you back online and to feel that you'll be coming back to the UK very soon. And thank you just so much for that beautiful talk, which is such a timely reminder to sort of dwell on beautiful states of mind. We tend to gravitate to them. So it's been really uplifting for me, so thank you so much. And on the subject of gratitude and generosity, we can express our gratitude by supporting the Anukampa Bhikkhuni Project and Venerable Canda. And I see Matthias has put the link in the chat. So this can be done in various ways, by financial contributions, ideally with a standing order if you can, to support the Vihara. And also, as Venerable Canda said, she couldn't live without our kindness, without being supported by being fed. So there will be the opportunity in early January to start. There'll be a list online for a weekly shopping list and for the dana meal each day. So if you can, I'd like to encourage you to add to joy and your joy and Venerable's joy by offering this dana if you can. But it's all freely given, which is just so beautiful, that this is just all done on generosity. The whole of the Dhamma, the whole of this tradition is based on generosity and wouldn't happen without generosity. And this is just so beautiful. So thank you.
Honestly, I feel so overwhelmed every time I think that, hang on, we've got a monastery. It's like, oh my goodness, how did that happen? It's a huge thing from nothing to something really significant. It's just amazing. So yeah, the monastery is the community. It's not just the place, but we actually have a place now too. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of you in the coming year. And there are still some events happening with Bhante Sujato that are, a lot of them are full, but not all of them. The talk in London is not full. In fact, it's quite poor, to be honest. I'm thinking that if people just want to come and just give what you want on the door, I'm just saying that to you now. I might say that publicly too, because I don't know if the cost or whatever, and we have a higher charge, so I don't know. But we've only got a few people. So I want to give Bhante a bit of a warmer welcome in London. And there's a day retreat in Oxford on the 1st of Feb, and that is not full. It's quite full, but not completely full. And there's also going to be an evening talk in Oxford on the Friday, which hasn't been publicised yet because that's at the Oxford Buddha Vihara. I just got in touch with the monks there and they said they'd be really happy to host a Friday evening talk as well. So anyone who is coming over, I think Crystal maybe is coming from Sweden. Matthias is definitely coming. Others might be coming for the day retreat anyway. So yeah, if you're there Friday night, there'll be a talk at the Oxford Buddha Vihara as well. And hopefully, especially if I get more admin support, we can start having like half-day retreats more regularly at the monastery, and hopefully also some busy bee days, or we might combine it, I'm not sure, a bit of garden work or something. But we could also have like deep clean days and like busy bee kind of. I just need other people to organize it, because I just live on my computer once I'm back. Either on the computer, I'm talking to people in person, so that has to become a bit more manageable. Oh, I should just flag, lastly, in case anybody here would like to learn about YouTube uploads, we might need another volunteer to help us upload these videos onto our YouTube channel. So it should be someone with a few hours a week, I guess. Right, Matthias? We have somebody sort of in the waiting, but we can always do with more than one, I reckon. I'm trying to unmute Matthias so you could give me an idea how much time it might involve. But we'll put it in the newsletter as well. I seem not to be able to unmute you. Oh, hi. Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah. What do you think? 2-3 hours a week or more?
Yeah, 2 to 4 hours.
2 to 4 hours, yeah. If it's much less, then it becomes a bit like, well, it takes a while for us to explain everything, and but you can just do what you can do. If you do have 2 to 4 hours, that's fantastic. If you have more, it's even better. And there'll be other ways to get involved. So I should let you go because we are a little bit over time, but thank you so much for being here and for being so kind in the way you listen to the Dhamma. Great. Thank you for your lovely comments, and take care, everyone.